What do you get when you mix a traditional pop like Canada Dry with a tropical fruit like mango? Here you have it. And what is the equivalent of a board game that has a traditional pickup and delivery system and worker placement game, and we mix it with the Japanese art and the play style? Well, you get Eldertide, A Thousand Lights, and this is how you play it. Cheers. Eldertide spirits are fighting to each other. These spirits are envy, aggressive, and they fight among themselves. And in all this chaos, poor human beings have to deal with ever-changing world. And yet, despite all that, what you as good human beings, they manage to adapt and retrieve trading and negotiation among them. You other time you gather goods, you produce goods, and have machinery to produce more and fulfill contracts to be the most successful navigator in this new ever-changing world. But be careful, there is the storm that goes around destroying ports and harbors as well as your ship. It is a game for 1 to 5 players, plays in about 90 minutes. We're not going to cover the solo mode, and we are not going to cover the changes that you have in setup for 2 and 3 player game. This game has been set up for 4 player, although you see only 2 standees, but all the rules that I'm going to describe for the setup is for players. To have a general overview of the game, players will select where to go during each round, depending on the strengths of their movement and their energy that they chose to utilize. They may select one specific action for each port, as well as a bonus action, which is the lowest of adjacent port nearby. And that usually is converting resources, getting upgrade, and eventually fulfill recipe that will get you victory points. And with victory points, you win the game. Between these turns, you're going to have this storm. You roll the die, and the die will tell you in which direction will move, which harbor is going to be damaged, or other ships are going to be damaged. You can go and repair it to get benefit, or you may want to run away if you know the storm is approaching, or taking a chance and stay there because you really want to have direction and gamble, hoping that the storm will not hit you and penalize you on the next turn. The game has a modular board. You see all the port tiles that are over here. These has been randomly shuffled and allocate in this display. There is one tile, the capital tile is always placed in this location. This is how it looks. And in the capital tile, all the ships or player tokens will start the game. Here you're going to have the storm, and I placed the storm die over here, but you can place it adjacent to the board. And that board is set and ready to begin. Adjacent to the board, you have the supply board over here. For the supply board, to set up the supply board, you're going to take one of each 4 resources and randomly assign a value over here. Then you're going to take the outpost Bico token with the A and B side. You see here, you're going to have a A letter and a B one. So the A goes on top of the B, and you will match the corresponding B token and cover over here. Again, as I said, this is a 4-player game, so there are 3 B token underneath. Then you're gonna shuffle the export cards that you have over here and assign them in this way. Assign them randomly in this way. And then you place the round track on number 1. When the round track gets to 10, that's when you have the end of the game. Then you fill up the beacon reward token. You cover everything except, for example, in this case, we are in a 4-player game. You leave the 5-player icon uncovered, and then you are ready to begin. And this is the general setup of the game. Now let's take a look at the setup for each player. Each board is slightly asymmetrical, which is nice. And I'm not gonna describe each power, but you can explore it by yourself. This is the main board. And on the main board, you can find the outpost. You have 1 major outpost and 2 minor outpost. The main beacon perk identified here in the center is actually where the asymmetry of each character arises. And so every icon on the center will be different for each player. So here for the House of Rats, we have this symbol. Well, if we take a look at the House of Farath, we have a different symbol and so on and so forth. Here on top, we have the ship storage. Potentially, each ship can accommodate up to 7 different resources. And to start the game, you're going to have 2 locked slots in this way. Then each faction starts with a crystal, with a rice, and with a wood token that you're going to place in this way. Here, you have the chi tank. This is the chi energy that fuels your ship, and that's the energy that you're gonna utilize during your round to move around the board. Place your chi token on number 10 and your tank cap on top of it, covering 11 and 12 slots. That's essentially is the maximum of your tank at the beginning of the game. You will be able to increase it so you can have more energy to move your ship around. Here you have the specialization track. Place one of each resources at the bottom. This track is very important to develop because not only does it give you rewards, as well as is your limiting factor to see how many building you can build on your outpost. This is the slot of the house perk. Each faction has 3 different house perks that can be unlocked when you complete an objective. These are different and asymmetric. At the beginning of the game, you take a look, you decided to pick one, you cover down, and you place it over there. Each faction has 3 toolkit token you're going to place over here. This toolkit token will allow you to repair damage that has been caused into your ship or a port on the main board. Select a first player that gets the favorite token. This will break ties, or this will break ties. Assign it in the way you want it. Each player has 5 double-sided big part tokens. This can be stored on the side of your board, and then each one gets a navigation dial. Shows the faction of the crest of your faction, and this dial, as you see, goes from 1 to 8. This is the maximum chi that you can spend during the navigation. Let's take a look at the resources. We have 4 resources. We have food that is green. We have crystals that is blue. We have wood that is red. And then we have engine that is yellow. These tokens can be utilized to develop facilities on your player board. What you're going to do, you're going to flip them to have the corresponding facility on your player board, which means it will produce the corresponding goods of the same color. On your board, you have an outpost beacon where you're going to start the game, but then you can have more throughout the game, and we're going to say why that you're going to place here. Around each beacon, you will be able to place your facilities, but the number of facility of the same type is dictated by the specialization track. At the beginning of the game, you're allowed to have one type of facility per good. Throughout the game, this will go up, and so if this is the situation, you will be able to have 3 green facility and 2 blue and one yellow, and so on and so forth. So this is very important to keep in mind, and this is, I think, one of the most forgotten rules for this game. Each round has 2 phases. There is the player phase and there is the storm phase. During the player phase, player will take their navigation dial and they will select how much chi they want to consume. You see, you have value 1, 2, 3, etc., up to 8. And then if you select this value here, what you do is essentially go back to the capital. You simultaneously do this process. For example, you select this value. When you're ready, you put it face down, and then simultaneously you reveal the value. All these actions have to be taken according to player order. Unless you go to the capital, whoever goes to the capital can perform that action at the same time where the other players go to other ports. So let's say I select 4. Whoever has the highest initiative will go first. In case of a tie, whoever has the favorite token will go first. In case nobody of the players have this token, the closest to who has the favorite token will break the tie. So you use this energy, the chi energy, to move and sail around. You cannot spend more chi energy than the one you have. So let's say in this case, I set 4 and I'm the one that has the highest energy that wants to spend. So I will go first. First things, I will decrease my chi energy of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I will be able to move my ship. So I can use my 4 movements. And for example, I will go 1, 2, and I can stop here. I don't have to use all 4 energy to move. I can decide to stop there. And we're going to see why I want to use more chi energy than the one I need very soon. Some restriction you can encounter during the movement. You cannot go through the storm. Another thing, if there is a player in another location, you can go to the same location. You can go and cross a location that is occupied by another player, but that will cost you 1 additional movement point. So back to my example, I spend 4. I start from there. This player is over here. I will spend 1 to move here, another 1 because of the player is located over there, and another 1 to be here. So for a total of 3. So this is something that you want to take in account when you decide how much chi energy you want to utilize. If there are multiple players in the same location, then you need to add 1 extra movement points per player in that specific location. Then at the next turn, you are not allowed to essentially circle around and end up on the same port to perform the same action in 2 rounds in a row. After all the players done their movement action, then you are able to resolve the action of the port that you end up to. First of all, you need to see that every port has different values with 3 different actions. The number that you see on the left is the minimum value of chi that you have to have spent to utilize that action. So in the current example, I utilize 4 chi energy to move. So I'm allowed to utilize this action here, or also the one at the bottom. I have to perform that action and I have to perform in full. So for example, in this case, because I use 4 chi energy, I will be able to increase 1 level from my specialization track and also gain 2 food tokens. Additionally, I can perform a special action that doesn't cost any additional chi energy, and essentially is the weakest action on one of the 3 tiles adjacent to mine. This is optional. After all players have executed their action, it's time for the storm phase. During the storm phase, you take the die, you roll it, and you see where the storm is going to move. So in this case, the storm is going to move southeast. What you're going to do, you're going to swap the location of the tile and the storm, and you're going to flip the tile. Now this port is broken. A broken port can be repaired, and a broken port cannot be utilized for the action, you cannot end up there, and it actually costs you +1 sail point to cross it. However, the broken port can be repaired, and repair a port will cost you a toolkit token. But when you do that, you will gain 5 victory points. And when you do that, after you repair, you gain 5 victory points, you will restore report as it was. If you roll and then the storm moves towards where another player is, that the storm will break the port as well as will damage your ship. When you damage your ship, you will take 1 of these tokens and you will place it here on your chi track, essentially causing you not to recover the full potential of the chi energy. Once again, you can repair your ship by utilizing 1 of the tool token, you spend it, and you will remove the damage token on your ship. If rolling the die, you end up in a location where the storm cannot move, Then you look at the token here and you move to the next possible location. So in this case, the storm should move east, but east is not an available location. So the next one will be northeast. Northeast is available. So the storm will move over here, will break this port, and here we have. And so the storm will continue. After the storm phase is done, you move the round track down by one, and you repeat the same process. Player phase, storm phase. At some point, the round track will cross this symbol here. This is when the storm gets enraged. When the storm is enraged, what you're gonna do, you're gonna roll these dice twice. Ships can only be hit by the storm once per round, so you can only accumulate one damage token per round. So now that we know how the game plays, let's take a look at the action that you can get. Some of the icons are very simple. That indicates you gain one wood, you gain one crystal, you gain one food. Some icons of this sort, that will mean any resources. So this is any different resource. You may encounter icons like this, which means any green facility that you have would produce one rice. When you count the facility on your outpost, you're gonna have this facility here, the power station. When you take the yellow facility, the power station, this is essentially behave as a wow. And when it's surrounded by two of the same type, in this case is as you there's three farms in your outpost. So when you have a orientation like this power station doubles each of the adjacent facility. So in this case, is as you had two excavation site and you also have two town. And this two or three is not affected by the specialization track. The specialization track tells you how many this icon or tokens of the same color can be present. So in this case, we can have one red, that way it's good. We can potentially have three blues. For now, we have only one. We can have two yellow, and that's what it happened. And possibility to have three greens. At the moment, we have two. So we don't count this one. So potentially, we can build an additional one. If we take a look over here, tells you for each town, you get 3 victory points. Here for each town, you gain 1 chi, the energy, the fuel for your ship, and 2 victory points. And here each town will give you 1 and 1. This port here allows you to spend 3 identical resources for 15 points. So here that allows you to trade 1 resource for 2 identical but different from the first one, or for 1 tool token. This one allows you to export 1 resource and gain 1 tool token. If you go to this port, you can gain 1 beacon token and you can build a facility. Here you get 1 beacon token, and here you can spend 1 crystal to obtain a beacon token. Beacon tokens are taken from this board. You take always the one on the top. So in this case, you have the A token and the B token remains there. And throughout the game, you can only have 1 type of big token. You cannot get both of them. So if at this turn I take this one, in future turns, I cannot get the same one underneath. They have to be different. When I get this beacon token, I place it over here, and that will allow me to build around facilities, as well as will give me end game scoring points. So for example, this will give me 5 victory points per pair of beacons outposts I'm gonna place. And this one is 6 per exporting card that I'm gonna collect. And we're gonna see what those things are. Here you have the far port. This allows you to do your e-commerce. You can exchange 1 goods. Here you increase the value of 1 good by 1 and exchange 2 goods. And here you can increase the value of 1 good by 1 and then exchange 3 goods. For this action, we are going to go back to this board over here. So let's say that I am allowed to increase the value of 1 good by 1. So for example, I want to increase this value, and so I will swap the one on the top and the one with the one at the bottom. So now food counts for 5 victory points. And now I can trade 2 goods if I want to. For example, I can trade 2 foods and place it here on the card. By doing that, I'm gonna get immediately 5 victory points per good that I have exported. In subsequent turn, some other player, for example, may fill up this card, completing it, so they will exchange these two goods. They get 7 points per good, that will for a total of 14 points, but also they will claim this first reward for 8 points. And after that, this card is completed and you adjust the market according to this. So in this case, the blue and the green will swap in terms of value. Remove this card and then you will replace that card with a new exchanging card like this. So now these points cannot be taken anymore and you continue in the game. These icons indicate that you can increase your specialization track by 2, in this case for town. You can have this one that allows you to increase 3 or whatever you like. Then you have icons of this sort that allows you to increase the cap for your chi tank, so by 3, 2, and 2. In addition, you can have a tool token over there. When you increase your tank cap, you will cross the lock over here once or twice, and every time you cross it, you will be able to unlock new room on your cargo to carry more goods. Additionally to the one bonus action that we mentioned, the lowest action of a JSON port you can perform, you can also spend 1 tool token to place the base, or you can play, so the base of you will be like this, the base, or you can spend 1 toolkit token and 1 crystal to place the top part. And anytime throughout the game, when you reach these personal goals, in this case 25 victory points, you can flip this and you're gonna get a special house perk for your faction. And this is an immediate bonus, or could be an end of turn bonus, or could be an end game scoring bonus. Then you have the capital action. That doesn't require any chi energy to get there. Essentially, you need to flip your dial and show one of these icons, the matching icon. You immediately go to the capital. The capital allows you to increase 2 different specialization tokens. It allows you to build as many facilities as possible. Then you can increase your energy to fill up your tank, and then you gain 1 token. So for example, if I'm here, I'm in the capital, I will have to advance 2 of my tokens, 2 different tokens. For example, I would advance this one, and I will advance this one. Then I will be able to build facility because I have this resource over here, and I can have 2 red buildings and I can have 4 blue buildings. I can convert all of them into facilities. And I can populate any of this outpost. And then I will fill up my chi energy to the max, to my cup. And then I will gain 1 tool token and then put it back on my player board. I mentioned that as a bonus action, you can build a beacon. If your ship is in a specific port, you can build the part of the beacon. First, you need to build the base, and that will cost 1 tool token, and then you build top. When this is built, this port is not affected by the storm anymore. It cannot be broken by the storm anymore. If the storm hits, you will simply swap the port with the storm, and that's it. Different players can participate in the construction of the beacon. For example, I can place the bottom, then move, then the next player comes, and that player will build the top. When the beacon is complete, players can get the beacon reward. Starting with the player that built the top of the beacon, that player will select 1 immediate bonus and will take them and will score immediately. Otherwise, if they are not happy with these tokens, they can get 5 victory points. Then the second player, whoever has built the bottom, will select the rewards afterwards. If only 1 player contributes with both pieces of the beacon, then the player will get 2 beacon rewards. The first player that gets 4 beacons tokens will gain 16 victory points. The second one will gain 8 victory points. If a port has only half beacon and the storm hits, You will swap the position, you will flip the port as usual, and you will keep the beacon token in position. And players cannot build beacons on broken ports. Each broken port has different rewards. Everyone gives you 5 victory points. In addition to that, you also gain, so you can have a free resource, you can upgrade one of the specialization track, and also this one you can increase one of the specialization track, so on and so forth. In the event that the storm hits a broken port again, you will swap as normal and you place a multiplier over here. Now, whoever repairs this broken port will gain 2 resources. If the storm hits this port one more time, you will have 3 multiplier, and that's the maximum that a port can be. You gain victory points and you will record them in this way. Every time you get to 10, you will move this, and then if you go to above 100, you will flip this, and then you, at the end of 10 rounds, you count all your victory points, you sum all the end game scoring points and other bonuses that you've gained throughout the game, and who has the most victory points is the winner. And here you have it, how to play Eldertide 1000 Lights. This game, it was my most anticipated game of 2026. And as soon as I arrived, I unpacked it and I was immersed in this beautiful art. It's this very unique story. I really want more about this world. As soon as I read it, I want to immerse, I want to enjoy the game. I read the rules, and you see it's a relatively simple and straightforward game. You use energy, you move, you pick up stuff, and then you fulfill recipe. This is nothing groundbreaking. The twist about this game, of this type of pickup and delivery, is the storm that goes around. It can punish you. Maybe there's a push or lack. Is this push or lack coming through the game? Unfortunately, not. I was following in the campaign, and the designer tried to implement this storm. One thing that was very successful is that the storm in the initial prototype kind of can get stuck in one of the corners. In this way, with the token at the center, the storm always moves, always does something. But there's no, I don't never feel the threat of the storm. I always have plenty of tool tokens that I can use to repair. The puzzle is purely logistics. The storm can give you some benefit, can slightly punish you that you need to do one extra things, but it's not too bad, doesn't distract you too much. Actually, what I like and what I found interesting is when you allow a port to be hidden multiple times. But this is pure luck. You need a roll of the dice, usually 2 in a row that you see the storm goes back and forth and hit the port twice. And so you have that multiplier, which always good to go and repair it. There's not much interaction between players, except there is the race for the big token, and there is the, essentially you pay an extra sell token when you move across another player, or in the capital, across the capital, where usually there's some other players always over there. The race is tight. You feel that everyone can sneak out your points. You always have that pressure. The negative things that I feel like a little bit, I'm not sure how I feel still about the game, is exchanging resource card, which essentially who completes the card gets the points. And that is something that is like, I see why it's there. It just, in all the games, I feel like nobody wants to start a card unless they complete it, which is always usually impossible because you have at most 3 exchange resources that you can do in one shop. Yes, there's the balancing that you can exchange 3 in only one time. You can adjust the board in such a way that you can gain the maximum out of it, and then you leave only 1 resource that compensate. You can win 7 times 3 is 21, and then the other person can complete 5 plus 8 would be, well, it's actually usually you don't have 3 of the same, but so let's say 7 times 2 is 14, plus 4 is 18. The other person put another resources would be 4, plus 6 is 12. So it doesn't get as much as you did. But I feel like there's that kind of, I don't want to start the card, you start the card, and the game a little bit, in that case, there's a kind of a game of chickens, which I don't enjoy. It's not punishing. I'm not saying there's a problem with the game. just that I don't enjoy as much as I would like to. What I enjoy is just the board is shifting, how I'm gonna solve this logistic puzzle that every time is different because this board changes every round. The game is super fast. Those 10 rounds goes immediately fast. You cannot do everything. And that is a thing that I really like. You cannot boost everything. You cannot go on the specialization track at the maximum. You cannot fill up the board with everything you want to. So you need to focus on your spatial ability that you picked at the very beginning of the game. So it's really, really interesting. Overall, it's a game that I really much enjoyed it. I want to bring it back to the table. The components are beautiful. As I said, the only thing I would like to have a little bit more push or luck or reward to be close to the storm. I don't know, something that never feels a real danger. And maybe that's the theme of the game. I don't know. And then those exchange cards. I would like to have maybe a partial reward for help. I don't know. I like the big tokens when you collaborate to build them, and so everyone gets a token. Whoever completes it, choose first. Completing it is more expensive. That makes sense. The card, something similar could have been done. I'm not so sure. Is this the best game I played in 2026? I don't know. I play so many good games, so I don't know. But definitely, it's a game that I'm willing to play. And if you like medium pick up and deliver games, that there are not that many out there, this is definitely something that you want to check it out. Eldertide's A Thousand Lights. And if you made it so far, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you have the hype button, please press the hype button. If you want to check my Patreon, Instagram, everything. You know the drill. This is not your first YouTube video, am I right? Thank you very much and see you next time. Ciao.